Okay, let's now use our font to create a text. And let's write a create text function for that. But maybe this time let's do it a more generic way so that we are able to reuse this function actually, because we might want to create more than one text in this tutorial. So let's create the function here. And let's call this one create text. And now let's think about what kind of parameters we would need for our function to keep it generic. Well, the first parameter is our engine here again. And the second parameter, like all the other class objects, a text does need a unique ID again. So we can pass it as parameter here. And let's say a text has a position. And for that we are using linear math again. And we would choose the point D variable. Let's call this one position. And every text has a font. So let's pass here the font ID. Okay. And of course, we would like to pass the actual text as parameter. So let's insert it here. And let's call this one text. Okay, let's start with creating the text. And for that, we will write engine text, which is the text class. And we choose create. And here we can pass the ID. And of course, we should catch the result again. Very good. Then let's check the result first. And this time I will copy paste it because we might need it a few more times. So let's now tell the text which font it should use. And for that we can use the function relate font. The first parameter is our text ID again, and the second parameter is simply the font ID. So this way the text does know which font it should use. Let's then set the text position, and for that we only need to use engine text set position. And the first parameter here again is the ID. And the second parameter is the position, which is being passed to this function here. Don't forget to check the result. And let's then set the actual text. And for that we use the set function. And this function requires two parameters. The first one is the ID again, and the second one is the text. That's it, and then let's return the result. Okay, let's now write a prototype for this function, and to be honest I cannot remember all of them here. So I'll copy it and let's include it here. And now first remove all the names. And remove these const keywords here. Okay, looks good to me. But before we can create a text using this function here, we first need to make this function here more generic, because we need this font ID here inside this create text function. So what we need to do is to pass the font ID here as parameter. If you don't understand this by now, you'll get it in a minute. So let's add a parameter here. Let's call this one font ID. Now let's delete this one here and let's pass font ID. Okay. So what we need to do now is to change the prototype here. Just add the second parameter. Okay. And what you will see now if you open this function here is a wrong function call. So let's add our default font variable here and let's pass it to this function. And maybe you realize now why we defined default font inside this function now. Because if we create a text now, we can use default font and pass it as parameter. Okay, so let's define an ID for our text. And as I said, this is going to be the headline of the application. So let's call this one headline text and just pass a random number. I chose 17. And again, you can choose any number you like as long as it's unique for texts. So let's now create a text. First, let's check the result again. And let's use our create text function. So create text. And the first parameter will be our engine. Second one will be our text ID. Then let's choose a text. I'll choose this one here. Next we need to set a position. And there's another way of writing it actually. And I'll choose 10 and 10. And let's check. The last parameter is the font ID. Okay, let's now run our application and let's see if it works. And there you go. Very small and tiny black text, but it works. And you may not be satisfied with the color of the text, but this is a feature we wanted to add anyway. So let's improve our create text function here and let's add another parameter here. And this parameter has a color value type. So let's choose the double one again. And let's call this one color. And setting the text color is as simple as calling the other functions here. So just type in text set color. And again, first we need to pass the ID and then we will pass color. And that's it. Don't forget to change the prototype here. And of course we need to change this function call. And I'll choose a white color this time. Okay. Now if we rerun our application, you may notice that the color didn't change. And this is because we need to set the color before we set the text, because the set function here will prepare the text for drawing, so we need to set the color before that. Okay, now we run the application and it works. So two things left. The first thing is I'm not very happy with the size of the text. So let's go back to the create font function and let's increase the font size. I chose 50. Now we run your application and yeah, I'm happy with that size. And the last thing we wanted to do is to actually center the text. So let's have a look at this function call here again. And this is the position of the text. So I think we can leave this one here with 10. And we have to change this value here. So what we need to do is to take the screen width minus the size of the text divided by 2. And if you don't get it by now, just take your time, take a piece of paper, do some math. But I will show you how you can do it. So let's set these two values here to 0 first, because we need to call the setPosition function again. So let's type in engine text set position, pass the ID again, and now let's set the position. So let's leave the Y coordinate and let's now center the text. Let's put in some brackets. And now we type engine get screen width minus engine text get size. And in this case, we'd like to have the X variable, because in this, the width of the text is being saved. So of course we need to pass the ID here. And we take half of it. Okay. So let's now rerun our application. And let's see if it works. And yeah, the text is being centered. Congratulations! You just created your very first text using the engine, and it looks great, doesn't it?